Well, hey, everybody, get ready for a new case on criminal motives behind the crime scene tape.
My name is Jay, and I co host this podcast with my dad. My dad and I have both worked in law enforcement, and we also specialize in security. Join us as we dive into some of these real life cases and find out what actually happens behind the scenes and what most people don't get to hear about.
It's going to be a good one, so let's jump right in. Part of his information was, yeah, that's true, but if there's anything I can do to make my case better, I've got a story to tell you.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. Yeah,
You open that can of worms and you never know what you're gonna find. It's like a box of chocolates, right, Forrest?
right. And on top of that, it goes back to what's the motivation for him to tell on anybody? Not because he's doing the right thing, because he's not doing the right thing himself.
Right.
No honor among thieves. If I can make my deal a little bit better, I'll rat out somebody else. And he proceeds to tell me about one of his coworkers who has been filing false documents on vehicle mileage in an attempt to gain money for mileage traveled in a vehicle that was his on company time. So it was a mileage scam that this one was involved in.
Mm.
And as an investigator, you always get excited about where the next case goes. And also, as a experienced investigator, you know you don't really have the power to change anything. The wheels are rolling on his case.
Yeah.
The best you can do is make sure that the people making decisions know that you cooperated fully with us and that you offered up some information to another situation, which is going to make a lot of people mad because then they're thinking, where's the integrity in our unit? Where's the integrity among our managers? So we wrap up our part of it and we have him go ahead and just tell us what you know. What are you talking about? He laid it out perfectly. There was a coworker of his at his level that was filing mileage reports for allegedly driving um, many hundreds of miles on his car in an effort to collect money that the company paid for when you use your car.
Mm.
Now, this particular person was not a regional type person. There is no reason for this person to have to travel outside of that city. And yet, here he is claiming that um, every day for the last 30 days, he was driving from one location to another, which was over 600 miles away
Whoa, what?
and back same day on days that he shows on video. He was actually in the building working,
Mm.
in this building working. So there were several areas to look at. Again, our friend, the CCTV, the closed circuit television. And then we had some vehicle history reports and mileage reports and some other documents, databases that we could do some data mining for and gather the information to validate whether this was happening or not. And sure enough, we found that he, for the last 30 days, and we went back several months, and he was doing it over the course of the last 6 months. And I think it was a work in the system or just not. It was kind of one of those systems where it wasn't meant to be used as an investigation tool.
Mm.
It was a mileage thing, and it expired after 6 months. We don't know how many months prior to 6 months, how many, if it even went into years that he's been doing this. And you go on a trip, you fill out an expense report, put the mileage in. The mileage alone itself doesn't generate a full blown expense report. You don't have to include any money for food, per diems, different things like that. No hotel stays, nothing like that. They usually fly through the system pretty easily because there's lack of all this other stuff. You don't have to keep receipts. You're just basically stating that you traveled from here to there, and this is how many miles it was. If anybody wanted to check, you pull up the, and you guys keep telling me MapQuest doesn't exist anymore. I can't MapQuest something. Pull up Google whatever or whatever mileage thing you want to use, and you can tell how far it is from this city to that city. I know.
Sorry that you're just a MapQuest fanboy. I can't.
On top of that, I still look at VCR tapes. So back in the day, I will tell you that made it really tough to do investigative work looking at cameras of what people were doing when you had to back the VCR tape. Then you had to find all of them. So, yeah, thank goodness for digital stuff these days. I'll give you that.
Yep, yep. Um, do you know how much they paid per mile?
Oh, yeah. It was the government rate, which in most cases stinks. When anything that's the government rate, you're getting ripped off.
Yeah.
But mileage was a little bit different. I think at one point it was as high as 54 cents a mile.
Oof,
So
jeez.
you do the math. I can't.
We'll say 50 just to even it
50
out.
cents a mile, 600 miles one way, 600 miles the other.
600
So
bucks right there
$100 a day
a day for
for
6
30
months.
days for 6 months.
Ooh,
And, the first thing I'm thinking of is usually the first thing thought I have nowadays when I see something absurd. Like, how can this happen in this day and age?
right.
Where's the failure in all this? How do, like, everything that we're trying to do these days? How do we not know this? Putting those thoughts aside for another, minute around the lunchroom or somewhere when you're sitting back, the case is already done. You're trying to figure out how in the world can we fix something like that down the
Mhm.
road. We continue to follow the evidence, and sure enough, knowing myself how to fill out a mileage request, somebody has to approve it, and
Oh,
yeah, and somebody has to be curious. If you have an employee and you're looking at a mileage request payment and your employee claims to have traveled from this city to that city, let's just say Orlando to Atlanta.
yeah.
You're doing this all the way up and all the way back every single day of the month. Now, if you kind of put that into perspective, it's kind of impossible to make that many trips and sleep for any amount of time.
And work.
And, well, obviously at work. But even if you took out the work factor, if you were to take off and drive from Orlando to Atlanta, turn around and come back every single day, and then try to get in 4 hours of sleep,
Yeah.
it's it doesn't add up.
No,
It's just the laws of numbers and things just don't add up. You can't do that for 30 straight days.
right.
Something's gonna bleed over somewhere. And if you're that person's supervisor, how do you look at that and say, yeah, okay, sure, here you go. Now, granted, the advent of computers and being able to do things electronically could slide through. People have to know somewhere. They have to be able to see it. They have to prove something. Something comes in that indices something that says, "Here's a check. We're filing this. You need to approve it. You need to approve Joe over here for driving on this particular day." No, wait. Joe was working here. How's he driving for me? And why is he driving? He doesn't have a job that drives. He has a job that sits him in front of a conveyor belt. How in the world is he driving?
Yeah.
But I have him here. So right away, I'm thinking, all right, somebody is involved, or Joe, for lack of a better word, not his real name, has figured out how to work it around the system and get the approval himself.
Yep.
I make that phone call again to my boss and say, "Hey, guess what? Your day's about to get a little cloudier. This is what we've learned out of this." And I could hear the phone drop. He's like, "What? What are you talking about? You can't do that." And then, of course, he, um, typical to his personality, will make a statement while he's thinking about what he wants to say next. And the statement he makes usually doesn't make any sense, but I could tell he does it because he's trying to formulate something in his head to say back to what I just said and understand what's going on. And he goes, "Wow, he's not allowed to leave the building." I'm like, "Yeah, we just talked about that. So what are you really trying to tell me?" He goes, "This is impossible. It can't be happening." I'm like, "It's happening." "Are you sure?" "No, I'm not sure. I'm making it up." But yeah, I'm interjecting some thoughts in the middle of it. And I'm like, "Yeah, I promise this is what this guy says." So together, and I need him because there are certain levels of approval that when you do investigations and you have to do some data mining, you don't always have access to certain things. You need your boss to be able to dig into this and see what they're doing. This for confidentiality's sake and protection of employees. And I don't know if HIPAA plays into it at all, but there could be something there. And he has more access to stuff than I have. So I need you to look this up, make sure I'm looking at it right. He goes, "Holy smoke!" He calls back. He's kind of happy, and he calls back like we stumbled into something good. This gonna make us rich. But he tells me, he said, "Yeah, it looks like that his boss is involved. She's signing off on it." And I said, "All right. So do you want someone from the main office to come down and continue this investigation, or can I go ahead? Everybody's down here where I'm at. Can I go ahead and pursue the evidence and the leads and the interviews?" He said, "Yep, give it a shot." Um, he asked me to call another uh, closer investigator that I worked with who'd been with the company for 20 plus years just to bring him in, read him into the case, let him see what's going on. And he won't interfere, but he'll definitely help you stay on the path if he sees you're wandering from it. So we make arrangements. We're going to call this manager in, and he's not anywhere to be found. We don't know where he is. What do you mean you don't know where he is? He's supposed to work tonight. Yeah, he's not showing up. Called in sick. Probably driving.
Probably.
So then we go to uh, his manager who has been approving these. And she said, "No, I'm not interviewing with you. I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to do this, that. I'm not doing nothing."
Oh boy.
Well, again, I go back to the powers that be, my boss and my experienced teammate, and we plan a strategy that involves going above both of them to the next level, saying, "Hey, we need to really talk to somebody about this. Is there anything you can do to encourage that?" And my boss said, "You know what? Let's just hold off on going up that chain. Let's go up our chain and get the lawyers involved and see what legal aspects we have to um, persuade them to sit down in front of us." And the lawyers drafted an idea, and our corporate security chain floated the idea over to this particular senior level person, said, "You're going to sit down and talk to us and tell us what we need to know, or you're going to lose everything and have criminal charges filed against you because somehow with working with computers and filing things and getting money through it could be a wire thing going on in
Okay.
it,
Yep.
and you're familiar with that more than I am. So, uh, is there a federal? Is it a wire? Is it
Wire
still
fraud.
state law?" Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And she agrees. She said, "I'll agree, but these are my terms." I've been with this company maybe 5 years, so
Yeah.
law enforcement's still fresh on my mind, and I'm like, when does a criminal get to dictate terms? Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah. Like you don't have bargaining power here.
Yeah,
You're a little hot. You're in the hot seat right now. Like that's not a thing.
yeah. Your terms are, let me get my hands on
Yeah.
you. Sorry, that was my inside voice. Um, Snuck out on me.
Yeah.
Her terms were pretty simple. They weren't that bad. She said, I won't sit down on company property and give you a statement. I will only meet with, what was I called? Anyway, she would only meet with me by myself. And of course, she said she won't be recorded, but I'm meeting a female off property. I'm recording.
Yeah,
I don't care
because
what.
the
Yeah,
chances of like, oh my gosh, I was telling him my story, trying to come clean, and he jumped up and grabbed my breasts. Like
yeah,
that is so very much a possibility of happening. So for sure,
right. And I want it keto friendly, so I don't want no bun around it. Anyway,
keto friendly.
keto friendly. You know, I love keto. Great diet. Found it. Beef, rhyme with keto, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Cheetos, burritos, and tacos. But we seriously digress. She says she won't meet in a on the property. She won't be recorded, and she'll only meet with I think it was a senior specialist at the time, and she'll only meet with me. Well, obviously, I'm going to record it, and I'm going to wear a wire, so she can say what she wants. I'm still in control of this situation, and I'm not violating any laws.
Nope.
The particular state I was in, you did not have to inform anyone you were recording them. And even though we were not on the property, I was in a company vehicle. In company property, there is no expectation of privacy anyway.
Oh,
So
good.
I was able to get around that. And I set up the meeting. Of course, we're just civilians, right? We're in this corporate security gig and we're just civilians, yet I got cars staked out with investigators in them all around the block, like we're going to do a takedown, to buy bust. This is going to be great. So they're digging it. They're thinking it's great. I get her in the car. I start to talk to her, and she just kind of breaks down. She goes, this is bigger than me. It's bigger than you, and it could get ugly. But here's what I did. Yeah, he filed the reports on a daily, and I approved them at I think it was either monthly. You had to file the reports daily, but it got approved on a monthly check
Mm.
or maybe a biweekly check. I don't remember. And it goes up to the managing director level, which is even further up. And they have to, over a certain amount, they have to approve because that was one of my questions. Yeah, but we're not talking about $150 for a trip to go to a seminar. We're talking about $600 up, $600 back, all in the same 24-hour period. They're talking about 1,200 miles every day for 30 days, 6 months back. And she goes, yeah. And that person approved it as well. And I'm like, oh man, this is going to get ugly.
Oof. Seriously.
Um, and she goes, and that's about all I'm going to tell you. I'm not sticking around for it. I'm not retiring, resigning, or nothing. I'm just leaving. And I asked, where's the other guy? She goes, he's out of the country. You'll never find him. He's gone.
The guy that was filing it.
Yeah. Yeah. He was just a frontline manager, low level manager. And I said, where was all the money? What was in it for you? And she goes, well, he was splitting it with me.
Ah, there it
I
is.
got half of it. I said, then what's in it for the other? And there was a taste going to that person too. And I'm like, okay, um, I don't know if you will. I don't know if you'll respect the process or nothing, but I really need you not to discuss this, if you would. You know, I had to do it. That's part of my agreement, my part of my job to inform that person. I don't know what repercussions would come out of it, but That's just the way our procedure was. She just kind of snickered and got out of my truck, and that was the end of that.
Oh
So
wow.
now I go back and we have to regroup. When I was wearing the wire, my boss was in one of the other vehicles that was hearing the conversation. Evidence value, collection of evidence for prosecution or anything of that nature. And for the reasons that could get ugly in a litigation situation, the claims of I said I would talk, but I couldn't be recorded, and we recorded anyway. Is it admissible? Is it not admissible? We weren't even going to be able to go into that area at all. Whether or not it would have worked as admissible evidence, I don't know. At this point, we're just trying to figure out where's this going
Yeah.
and when is it going to stop. So the legalities behind it, we have an attorney on board who, he agreed. You don't never meet with a woman by yourself without something to protect yourself with. Not necessarily a woman, but you don't want to get into a situation where it is two people alone without some kind if it means that certain parts of the case may jeopardize the findings, so be it. But you have to protect yourself. You
Right.
have to make sure that nothing else can come out of it.
Mhm.
Get back to the office and we decide, all right, we may need some help on this, but we need to talk to that managing director. We get managing director's information and he can't be found. Um, but he's not missing. He just can't be found that day. Through some other talkings and conversations, we learned from the administrative assistant that asked us just a generic question. They don't know why we're looking. They don't know why we want to talk to him or anything.
Right.
We're just asking, we're tracking down an anomaly within the mileage reimbursement system. We think we've got a problem with, overpayment on some parts, underpayment on some parts. Can you tell me what your procedure is when you get this, that through the system or whatever? And she said, yeah, we look it over and we decide to approve it or not approve it. And I said, does the person responsible for approving it do it automatically, or is this a function you do at his um, direction and you just do it? Or does he actually look at each one? No, I do it all. I do it at his direction. He said it doesn't matter what comes in, sign off on it, send it on.
Oh Lord.
And I'm
So
like,
just pure ignorance, huh?
yeah. And I'm like, yeah. So how would you know if there's something wrong? She goes, really? The only time we know is if somebody complains and says, hey, I got shorted on my mileage check. I get that. Systems are growing. Information, data collection, processing electronically, all that stuff is growing. And it's growing at an exponential pace where it's sometimes hard to keep up. And it's just a lot of times it's easier to file it, do it, be done with it. Until somebody complains, then you look at the problem.
Right.
Now we're at a level where I'm pretty much walking on the coattails of another higher up person to see where this is going to go from here. And there's now conversation that a vice president of some particular division might be involved. And we're really just sitting back. We're just a couple of old ex cops in an office trying to figure out what's our next move going to be. Everything from CSR trying to sell something personal on the bulletin board leads to all of this. I get a phone call. Has one of those deals where it's either a private number or a blank screen, and it's like, okay, you're going to sell me a car warranty, or this could be important.
Yeah.
It was on the company phone, so I was required to answer the phone. Said, senior specialist. I'm like, yes, sir. He said, you working a case involving such on a mileage thing? I said, yes, sir. He said, you did a great job, but your case is over. Um, you're no longer involved in this case. We're taking it from here, and we appreciate the effort. As you have advised everyone along your investigation confidentiality agreement, we're going to advise you that you're not to mention any personal names of anyone involved, and thank you for your time. And I'm like, okay,
All right.
hang up the phone, and 30 seconds later, my boss calls me and he says, hey, I'm like, hey, he said, you just get a phone call? I said, yes, sir, I did. He goes, all right, I need you to, you know, that the case is over. You did a good job. Don't be looking for no awards because there's a lot of people embarrassed, but you did a good job. It didn't go unnoticed. Thank you for your time. And can you do me one more favor? Go to the file cabinet and pull out your case and send it to me. And I'm like, okay, so how you know where this? Okay, he goes, I'll stay on the line. And I'm like, okay. My partner and I are the only ones that have a key to this file cabinet. Open it up, the case is gone. The whole case file, all our notes, everything's already gone. He
Man.
goes, nothing there, is there? I'm like, no. He goes, okay. Guess you're officially off the case. Good job. And that was, he said, we will not speak of this again. And that was the end of that. I
All
have
right.
no idea what happened down the road. I know that the two people we initiated the investigation with are no longer with the company. And I don't know anything else. But I got that phone call that said, you're done. Thank you for your effort.
Yeah.
Good. So that was the pretty much the end of the case. We were, congratulated for the hard work. And we kind of mentioned it before. It depends on the case, but we're all told through either a successful completion or for other reasons that a case is over with. And it can be early in the case, it could be later in the case, it could be right in the middle of one. You just don't know. You don't know the outreach of that particular case. You may stumble onto a um, another case that's being worked by who knows who that has more implications than the one you're working on. And there are times when you have to just bite the bullet. And I think we covered that a little bit in the informant stage. You may have to give up your information on a case from your informant for the better good of a larger case.
Yep.
It all works together, and sometimes it's frustrating. Sometimes it's a relief. I got to tell you, where this particular case was going, I was kind of glad it was relief because there were so many hoops to jump through to get to the next step, to follow up to the next step. It was becoming very labor intensive and emotionally draining. And in the back of your mind, you want to be a good employee. You want to work well with people, especially in your own chain of command. Your own corporate security side. You want to do well. Um, so you want that satisfaction when you made a good case and did a good job. But in the same light, am I stepping on anybody's toes I don't know about that I care about?
Right.
Like you worry about things like that. So at the end of the day, you do your job, and when it's time to end it, it's ended for whatever reason, for whatever manner.
Yep. Exactly. Now, this guy that was filing the expenses at first, the mileage stuff, um, you said that well, his manager said he's out of the country. You're never going to find him. Is that what happened?
I couldn't confirm it, and frankly, when they told me don't do any more digging, don't do any more looking, no talking, no investigating, or anything like that, I don't know what happened to the guy. I never heard from him again. Both that guy and his manager, on a kind of a weird note, received that same award, that annual award, a couple of years ago for being best manager for a year or manager of the year or whatever. kind of funny. They both received the same award, and the guy that started this whole thing was selling the handbags on property was set to get that same award. So it got to be a joke, man. If you come showing up at the door with this award, I don't want it because something bad's about to happen. Anybody gets that award? That's not the case. That's just silly
But
paranoia
that
stuff.
seemed like the stigma at the time. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, yeah. But
It's
we
like
don't.
the Madden curse. Like if you get put on the cover of Madden, you're not going to do well the next year. Which thankfully Patrick Mahomes disproved that one. But yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So it's I don't know the outcome of any of it after that. I know that the guy um, selling the handbags, I know he wasn't criminally charged. I don't know, and it's confidential what his outcome, what agreement he came to over his situation.
Yeah,
Anybody with the mileage, I have no idea what happened, but I just know they're not with the company any longer. All right, so there you go. Um, a friend of mine once told me, you got to strike while the iron's hot. And sometimes that iron is in the fire with several other irons, but the one that's the hottest, you kind of have to go with. You
yeah,
can't you can't manage it all by yourself, and you have to hit the ones that are most productive. And in this particular case, one led to another, so you rolled right into another one. It became the priority. But good cases. It talks about a lot to do with the informant perspective and um, how valuable they are. I mean, I would never have known for the ethical side of it, whether it was done the right way or the wrong way, or because they were wrong, or eliminate competition. It kind of doesn't matter at that point. Um, you're just glad that you got the information because it made good cases for you. Would we ever get to a point where ethics is a real thing in either government or the private sector? I don't know.
there's always going to be people that make bad decisions and that just throw their ethics out the window. But man, what a crazy case! And it's so important to not necessarily pick up every penny you find, but to be that hunter instead of just uh, the gatherer. So that lady in the very beginning was like, "I want to know what's up with the favoritism in this place." You
Mhm.
very well could have just been like, "Look, if you got a problem with people, go talk to HR. That's not my job. Whatever." And that whole thing, this whole case may not have even happened because of that kind of um, mindset. But when you have that hunter mindset, like I'm going to hunt down everything that needs to be traced, you were smart enough to say, "Hey, well, what are you talking about?" You know, just get more information. And then if you get, there could be times where you could do that and you'll get the information and it'll be like, all right, well, this is nothing. But then you have that one lady who comes in and is like, well, this guy's selling handbags and I can't sell my oddly picked chocolate flavor for helping you poop. So, yeah, so it was good on you, good investigator mindset to ask those questions and keep going. And same with the other, same with the guy that was selling the bags. Um, you bring him in, he's like, "Hey, I'm ready to toss up a name to you," and then it just keeps going up the chain from there. And that was, yeah, what a crazy case.
Yeah, you just, I mean, you don't know, and a lot of times, um, when people, I don't know, when people get to picking a career and they get to thinking about what do I want to be when I grow up, that kind of thing. Those kinds of things kind of determine whether it's a good fit for them or not. If they don't have that hunter mentality or that desire to want to know more,
Mhm.
or recognize, wait a minute, there might be value in that. That's the ones that generally don't make it very long because they don't see that value. Or
Right.
maybe in some cases, they just need to be in a different division of the same kind of function, so to speak. Maybe they're not cut out as a detective, but um, they can write tickets all day long. And that's the end of their day. That's all they do.
Yeah.
Guy speeding, here's a ticket. Guy ran a red light, here's a ticket. I'm good. And if that's all they want to do, and all they maybe they recognize that's all they care to do, that's where they feel they make the most contribution, nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But as far as in detective division and investigations, and whether it's public or private, you have to have that recognition skill, that hunter mentality you mentioned. So, and I think it just depends on your personality. There's nothing wrong with not having it. It's just a personality trait. So it could be firstborn. I don't know. I'm firstborn. You're firstborn. I don't know. Could
Something
be.
about it.
Which one of those little rascals stole my toy? That kind
Yeah. That's funny. We developed that mindset early on.
yeah, somebody's messed with my stuff.
Yeah.
Who.
That's funny.
There might be something to it. Might be a study.
Yeah.
Look into and see how many detectives are firstborns versus ticket writers.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we can get some kind of I don't know, data analysis person or some psychologist to come tell us the science behind that.
Yep, could be.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there you go. Hope everybody enjoyed the case. Hope everybody enjoyed some of the twists and turns that go with it, and hope you'll tune in again.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be coming back with more stuff here pretty soon. We're gonna start getting some guests on the show, which is gonna be awesome. And just looking forward to um, building and recording and just getting stuff out there. So thank you for tuning in.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Well, there you go. Another great case in the books. Be sure and tune in next week when we unpack a new one, and I hope you have a good week.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the episode. If you haven't already, go subscribe to our show. And if you liked it, maybe go get a buddy or two to go subscribe to it as well. Give us a like, a comment, a rating, whatever it is that you're watching this on, and make sure to give us some feedback because we want to make sure that we're doing the absolute best we can for our audience. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Criminal Motives Behind the Crime Scene Tape.